Jesus is not my personal Savior. He is the Savior of the church of which I am a part. And that got some people wondering, because we've heard all our lives probably about our personal Savior. In fact, I was reading into this a little more, and that statement and that concept of inviting Jesus into your heart as your personal Savior started in the 1940s. So it really wasn't that long ago, and it started along with that health and wealth gospel that we hear about sometimes. So it's sort of a new thing on the scope of Christianity about that idea of Jesus being your personal Savior. Now let me say this. Jesus is very personal to me. And Jesus is very personal to you. Think about where he's brought you. Think about how when you were headed in a way where you were on self-destruct and you were on that downward spiral to mess your life up, and maybe you did mess your life up, and you were wondering, how in the world am I going to get out of this hole? And Jesus grabs hold and pulls you up and makes a better life for you and gives you the salvation within the congregation, within the church. It's hard not to be personal about that, isn't it? I am so grateful for what he's done. And when you have some kind of issue with somebody else and you're butting heads and you're really not wanting to be around that other person, and Jesus teaches you how to love, that's very personal. So Jesus is very personal when it comes to my own devotion to him, my prayer life, how I treat others. But that's not just personal, is it? That kind of gets beyond personal. And all of these things on how I react to the Almighty is very, very personal. Now, if you heard what I was saying and heard the rest of what I said, I know sometimes when people hear something, they hone in on that one thing that shocks them, or maybe they don't understand and they didn't hear some of the other things I said. And what I said, I was talking about Christianity. A lot of people these days read their American culture into it, and they're very individualistic. So what I said was, you cannot be saved on your own. You can't have a personal Savior and it's just me and Jesus and I'm good. Salvation is within the context of God's church. He is the Savior of the church, the book of Ephesians says. And if you want to see how important the church is, study the book of Ephesians very closely. You can't be saved without it.